Hi there, I'm Clif Mims, and I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Right now, I'm actually making this recording in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm here to speak at their state math conference this week. Um, and I'm taking advantage of my quiet isolation here in the hotel room, something that I can't always find when I'm back home or back in the office in Memphis. If you want to follow along with this session, here's the URL. And I'll talk a bit more about these resources and things there because I'm hoping that we can kick off a discussion that we can build on. I have to tell you, I really like the title here, the idea of shh, the students are learning. And I can say that humbly because I'm not the person that thought of the title. My friend and colleague Brenda McComb, that as a director of educational technology in North Carolina, actually came up with the title, and so I think it works really well for the topic of this particular session. As a university professor and supervisor, I'm from time to time I visit K-12 schools. And oftentimes, when I enter into a classroom, the students will realize, hey, there's a visitor here. And they will stop whatever they're doing and they'll get real quiet. And it's all in an effort to be polite and courteous and respectful. But when I heard Brenda's title or suggested title, it struck a chord with me because I thought, wow, I like the idea of flipping that around. When I walk into a classroom, I like the idea of me, the visitor, getting shushed and saying, hey, learning's going on here. And, as schools and teachers, that's what we're all about is learning. Learning's going on here, so please make sure that, you don't intrude and interfere with that. And so I like that idea. And I think it kind of sets the tone for this notion of facilitating learning in the classroom and going to hopefully provide you with some tips that will help you be a better classroom facilitator in your own situation. As we begin, I'd like for you to take a few moments and think about important characteristics or characteristics that you deem important for people that hold these kinds of positions, for office staff, support staff, secretaries, and administrative assistants, for technical support, whether it be folks that you call on the phone and you get technical support for them, or one-to-one in the real world technical support. Someone comes around to your office or your classroom and provides assistance. Down here towards the bottom left, that represents mentors. In the middle, parents. You see a coach there in the middle towards the left. And then up at the top right, your medical professionals. And so I really do hope you'll pause the video for a moment and ponder this for 60 seconds. What are characteristics that you think are important in these people who typically take on a supporting role in their professions? Well, thanks. I hope you found that valuable. And I've actually asked a number of people what they value, characteristics that they value in these kinds of professionals or people in these positions. And I created this Wordle here. You can see that far and away the characteristics that come up most frequently are patient and caring, and then also loving, and then helpful, and someone that will listen to me and is a good listener. And I find this kind of interesting because when someone is trying to facilitate our healthcare or coach us in a situation, or when they're trying to help us or guide us through fixing a technical issue we're having with our television or with our computers, in all these kinds of situations, we do want them to be knowledgeable, we want them to be respectful, we want them um, to be understanding of us. We want to be able to understand them and what it is that they're saying and understand the terms that they're saying. But far and away, we even more greatly value that they'll be patient with us, and that they'll be caring, have a caring attitude towards us, and just be helpful and loving. So as we pursue this idea of being facilitators, one that's going to facilitate learning in the classroom, that's going to promote it and to help it and foster it. Uh, I thought that this activity would kind of help set the table for where we're going with this conversation. Um, so now a few tips from an instructional design point of view as you begin to design instruction and units and curriculum so that they can promote engaged learning and where you can take a kind of a side role and facilitate learning. One of the first things I'd encourage you to consider is developing a driving question or a scenario that will engage the students. I've seen some really, really fantastic driving questions and scenarios that either students are like, ooh, that's really cool, I want to do that. But also equally engaging is, hey, that's wrong. You treated somebody wrong, an injustice has been done, and I want to learn more about that because those kinds of things can also really engage students and drive learning and encourage and promote learning. And so you want to think of these on the front end. And from my experience, developing driving questions and developing scenarios typically take me a bit longer than I anticipate. Another tip from an instructional design perspective is understand that the students are going to need alternative resources, and you want may have some suggested resources available. As we move away from being, as we always say, the sage on the stage and more of the guide on the side, in moving into that role, the idea is that we won't provide all the information that the students need anymore, that the students will identify resources that they need. They will locate information, whether they search for it online or go to the library or contact knowledgeable others, etc., etc. But what you want to do as you're preparing and designing this instruction on the front end, you want to try to predict what they might need and have those resources readily available in the classroom so that they can have easy access to them. Another thing you'll want to think about is you'll likely need to do some mini lessons, and some of these you can probably predict and others you won't, will actually probably surprise you. But as you are observing the room and informally assessing the learning that's going on, you'll realize that, hey, everyone in here is a little bit operating under a misconception. Let's take a few moments and let me help redirect you and clarify this misconception that everyone has. But you could also realize that two of your groups are kind of falling into that category, and you can pull them over and meet with them and do some micro lessons, if you will, and provide some instruction. But the idea here is for you not to step back on the stage and become the sage, but do these in small chunks of time and as possible in real time. So when the students take advantage of those teachable moments and help them when they're actually struggling or confused or have this misconception. A very similar idea is prepare to do conferencing. And so conference with your small groups and conference with individuals and ask them how the process is going. Is everyone committed to the process and providing assistance? Does everyone understand the content? Do you understand the rubric? Or is it clear what you're supposed to be achieving and producing here? And you can do that, again, through these conferences, whether in small groups or one-on-one. And so build that into your preparation as you're preparing as well. I'd also encourage you to think about organizers, graphic organizers, concept maps, study guides, maybe even, I'm going to talk about in just a moment, questions, but just some processes, some steps and things that the students can use that will provide them with support, but it's support that doesn't necessarily have to come directly from you. So they'll have these organizers available to them as they're working through the activity. And then guide students through questioning. I have seen teachers do a really terrific job of this on the front end and saying, all right, as part of this activity, you're going to need to solve some math equations, and so let's practice thinking through what are the steps to solving these kinds of problems, and taking a few moments kind of a reteaching to refresh their memory, so that when they come to that as part of this unit, then that will be fresh and they can kind of guide themselves through the process. In very similar fashion, we have effective strategies, questioning techniques, reading strategies, and a variety of things from literacy that you might want to remind them to make use of as well. And now I'd like to give you some practical tips. These are things that I think will better help you as you prepare to do these. And these are just things that you may not think about if you're not accustomed to developing these kinds of units in your class. The first is think like a coach. I think this is really important. One of the, as a coach, you want to step on the side. You want to prepare them. You want to practice with them and get them prepared, but you can't do the heavy lifting for them. You have to let them go out and you have to let them do the competing, and they have to be the ones that are actually putting the effort in. And if you're going to facilitate learning, the same is true. As teachers, we all want to help people and rescue people and help them feel good and happy all the time. At least that's, a lot of us are just kind of naturally wired that way. But I'd encourage you to resist that temptation to some degree and think like a coach and let them struggle. When I take a printer out of the box at my house and set it up and begin using it, that's not the day that I learn how my printer works. It's later when that thing breaks down, or when I have to replace the ink cartridges, when it doesn't work for me and I have to pull out the reading manual and begin to figure out how it works and really struggle with it. It's not necessarily fun, but that's the day that I really learn how to use that printer. And that's typically in those situations, I don't forget those lessons learned because there's a little bit of struggle there. And also at the end, once I'm successful, there's a lot of a lot of enjoyment and gratification in that, and being able to know that I've accomplished that. If you're going to do this kind of instruction in your classroom, bring earplugs. I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but just understand that your classroom, probably students are going to be sitting quietly in nice, neat rows. I often hear people say that if you're going to teach this way, it needs to be organized chaos. I don't think that's necessarily true for everyone. I've seen people that aren't at all comfortable with their classrooms being incredibly loud and students being incredibly active and moving around all the time. But yet, they do get they are able to equally engage the students. Students are very mindful of the noise, but yet they are talking, they are on task, and things are just as engaging, but nowhere near chaos or organized chaos. But if you're going to go down this road, you do need to realize the environment is going to change to some degree, but there are variations in that. I'd encourage you to ease your way into it. We say that frequently in professional development and things like that. If you try to do one of these a month, then that would be 8 or 9 in a school year. And I think that actually would be quite a lot. It'd be a huge accomplishment if you're able to develop one of these a month. Um, you know, by the same token, if you're able to do 2 a semester, 1 a semester, that's a great starting place. I think what's important here is that you ease into it as you're comfortable and feel successful with it so that you're more likely to stick with it and replicate it with units in the future. I'd also encourage you to get some help. Take advantage of your online PLN. Most of you watching this are probably part of my PLN, and we're the kinds of folks that have gotten accustomed to that. But if you're not one that's on Twitter or Facebook or frequently reads blogs and you're not connected to people online, don't feel like you're at a disadvantage. I'm always really, truly happy when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Cliff," or "Hey, Dr. Mims," as my students will often refer to me. Uh, I need some help, and would you mind sending a tweet out over Twitter and seeing if anyone that follows you has some resources? And I do that from time to time. And so I'd encourage you to do the same thing, whether you ask me or someone else that you know that is connected online, do take advantage of that. As I think you'll find that to be helpful. One other thing before I move on, as far as getting some help, a lot of schools now have help in the building. You have technology integration specialists, you have literacy coaches, you may have facilitators or other kinds of specialists in the building. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that, use their expertise. In many instances, they can actually come in and assist you, and an extra set of hands in a classroom is always a great thing. And I've even seen these coaches come in and say, you know what, if you'd like, I'm willing to teach this lesson for you, and you as the classroom teacher can move over into the assistant role. And that can be a wonderful way for you to see this kind of instruction modeled. Not only do you get to see it modeled, but you get to see it modeled in your classroom, in your space, with your classroom materials, and so that can be extra beneficial to you as well. The last practical tip is I want to remind you that you're learning too, and model that for your students. And so when they come up to you and say, "Hey, we're needing a little bit of help here," be honest and say, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know much about that particular topic either." But then do the really right thing. Take advantage of that teachable moment and say, "But let's go and research this together," or "Let's go investigate this," and model that for them. Because the students that I frequently see are completely comfortable saying, "Hey, we don't know this," but they're perfectly willing to stop there. And so let's take advantage of the opportunity to model for them. It's not appropriate to say, "I don't know," and be okay with that. Let's do something about it. Let's act on it and learn more about this particular topic. So the idea here, those were just some practical tips, a few things to help you as you begin to develop your instruction. But for the most part, I really just hope I can kick off a conversation, because I think the best thing I can do with this topic is get people to begin talking about it on Twitter, on the corresponding blog, in the comments, and share the lessons that we've learned when we've done this in the classroom. And I think if you'll all, share the lessons, even the hard lessons when something bombed, because we can learn a lot from the non-example. If we'll share that, then I think we'll all benefit from that, and those that are kind of new to this way of teaching can really pick up some practical advice. I'm Clif Mims, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. I most certainly have. All the best.